Hey there, welcome, empty nesters. This is Kristen James, your host, and we are doing our weekly segment on Do Better. Do Better is a segment we do every week where we pick a organization, person, or a thing who has definitely failed our expectations, and we want them to do better. This week, we are looking into the interview that was conducted on the Today Show on Friday, June, was it 5th? Yes, 5th, 2026, with Karen Reed. Now, I'm gonna let it play out, and I'm gonna be adding some, extra stuff into the commentary. There's some things they left out, but basically, Karen Reed has had all of the heavy, heavy charges as far as murder relinquished of her. The first trial was a hung jury. The second trial, she was found not guilty of. So as we go through it, I'm going to add a little bit tidbits in there, but I want you to keep in mind that as you go through this interview with the two hosts from the Today Show, that this woman is not on trial for any criminal charges. She has set in motion a civil case against the Massachusetts State Police and Canton Police as well as other individuals. And she has also been a part of a civil suit against her for other reasons with the case as well. These are all civil charges, not criminal. And let's hear how these questions are given to her and her attorneys. She has two attorneys there with her. One is Alan Jackson, who is a um, he was a prosecutor in LA, and then he became a defense attorney, and he's a very effective attorney, very, very good. And then her other civil attorney is there as well. So let's start this, and we will go through it, and then commentary at the end. Shoot.
Battle this morning against the police departments she says framed her for the murder of her boyfriend, police officer John O'Keefe.
You know what you did. You know what you've done.
The 46-year-old filing a scathing new civil suit against Massachusetts State Police and the town of Canton, laying out a litany of racist messages her attorneys say were exchanged between the lead investigator on Reed's case, Michael Proctor, and former Canton Police Sergeant Sean Good.
Take your time. I saw was involved, so I wouldn't rush if you're working. Let them die.
Most of the messages unrelated to Reed, but according to the complaint, their crude nature expose a culture of bias and corruption.
You are a filthy pig that you just do dirty things to.
Reed's history with Proctor and others in law enforcement stretching back years.
She's a whack job.
Her attorneys have long maintained, but have yet to prove, that O'Keefe was killed at a house party after a night of heavy drinking with fellow officers back in 2022, who then tried to cover it up by falsely accusing Reed of hitting O'Keefe with her SUV, leaving him to die in the snow.
This case should be over right now. Done. Because there was no collision.
A jury ultimately acquitted Reed last summer of second-degree murder after her first trial ended with a hung jury. Proctor, meanwhile, was fired for his misconduct, his lawyer dismissing the newly revealed messages from his personal life as having no bearing whatsoever on the investigation of Karen Reed. Sergeant Good also off the force, resigning this week after he was placed on leave for alleged misconduct. It's unclear if that leave was connected to Reed. But Massachusetts State Police call their messages, quote, abhorrent, adding in a statement they do not reflect the agency's values. Yet the allegations of police corruption at the heart of Reed's defense struck a chord for many of her supporters, who often gathered outside the courthouse, with many more following online.
Never in my entire life have I been more invested in a court case.
Even an auction of her SUV attracting intense interest until it was sold. It all comes as the former financial analyst fends off other legal woes, including a wrongful death lawsuit brought by the O'Keefe family. But Karen Reed has vowed to keep fighting to vindicate her innocence.
There's more evidence, and there's more of a story to tell.
Now, NBC News has reached out to Sean Good, but has not yet heard back. The town of Canton, meantime, says it refutes any broad stroke characterizations about the people who serve in that department.
So let me also put this in here. So this is Karen Reed's third interview since she was found not guilty of the charges of murder of her boyfriend. So this is only her third interview that she's had. She had one with Harvey Carr, who was he is a Boston news, not even news person. He's more like a commentary person. He wrote a book about corruption in Boston. He has really been absent the last couple of months in all of this, which is surprising. The second one she did was with Rotten Mangoes, which is the clip you just saw. It's her third interview. That's it. That's all she's done. That's it. So let's see where this goes.
And joining us now is Karen Reed, along with her two attorneys, Alan Jackson and Charles Waters. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Karen, let's start with you because we really haven't heard from you much and seen you really at all since the jury's not guilty verdict.
Really?
First, just why file this lawsuit now? You already have one lawsuit in the queue. Why do this now?
This was always our plan, that I had to save my own life first. I can't do anything if I'm not free. And I had to fight for my freedom for years. And I knew as it unfolded, just forget that this happened to me, that I was wronged in this way. I couldn't just go back to life as it was. I have to continue fighting for justice. The acquittal is deserved, but the wrongs have not been completely righted. They've been happening along the way, but I always knew this was going to happen if I could get the help legally to do this.
Let's talk about that for a moment, Alan, because again, as we just saw in Laura's story there, Sergeant Good's been fired,
Right.
Lieutenant Proctor fired. They're both gone.
Good was not fired. He resigned. Do your research. Do your research.
The departments have said that there was wrongdoing. They've admitted that. From a legal standpoint, what do you precisely want to see happen here that has not already happened?
Well, it's a civil case. So the remedy is the law speaks in dollars, but that's not what the ultimate goal is here. The ultimate goal is to ensure that we bring to the light the institutional biases, the institutional corruption that permeates the Massachusetts law enforcement system. That's what this lawsuit's going to do. Ultimately, what Karen wants, you cannot write on a check, which is exposure of the corruption that is the DNA of the Massachusetts State Police, of the Canton Police Department, which is evidenced by these two individuals in their text messages. They were in a position where they felt comfortable within their own family, the family of law enforcement, to send these vile text messages, to send these vile voicemails that are reflective of a deeper problem in the culture. That's what we want to expose.
But to be clear, we're seeking money.
Did you not hear his answer to the question? Did you not hear his answer to the question?
At the end of the day, that's what the civil law requires. Yeah.
Charles, I want to bring you in here because you guys have always maintained she was framed, right? That's been your entire theory from the beginning here. But what evidence have you actually amassed over the past 4 years now? What evidence do you have to support that claim?
Well, I mean, I think that Alan, during the criminal cases, let the whole world see the evidence that she had. But I think first and foremost, you look at the injuries that John O'Keefe suffered, and that to me is the key. Those were injuries from the back of his head. He died from injuries to the back of his head, some ridged lead surface.
But you've had that for a while now, right? That's not new.
But the
Oh my God, I don't even know if I can't. Again, do your research.
question was what evidence is, and you start there. And when you start there and you realize that the medical examiner, for example, testified at the criminal trial that these injuries that he had were inconsistent with a car strike. So you start there and then you say, what else could have happened? And then you look at the house. And then you look at the people that were in the house, and there are ridged surfaces in the house. There are relationships that John O'Keefe had with people in that house that were difficult relationships. And there's a lot of evidence that we've uncovered and that we're going to still uncover in this civil case.
Karen, let me come back to you.
So the other people in the house, which they don't really flesh out here, is that the owner of the house was a Boston cop, which John O'Keefe was also a Boston cop. There's also an ATF agent that was in the house. There are other police officers. So there's a heavy influence of police presence there that were not fully investigated, which is not really fleshed out in this interview or short synopsis. But that's kind of where the civil litigation is going to go.
You for a moment here, because since the two trials, like what has life been like for you? I know you lost your house, you lost your car. Are you working right now?
Oh my
No,
God.
I'm not working. I still don't
Really?
have my license. And I'm back working on the case. And, you know, we've brought in civil lawyers, but this case is so comprehensive that we need all hands on deck. I mean, I'm working on the case every day, and I don't know that I really ever took time off, and I don't know that I felt like I wanted to take time off. I want this to be over, but it's not done yet.
I want to, because we saw the throngs of supporters who would show up at that courthouse who clearly believed just as the jurors did. But you have to know that when you walk down the street, there are lots of people who look at Karen Read and who think, oh, there's that woman that got away with killing her ex-boyfriend who was a cop.
First of all, it wasn't her ex-boyfriend. It was her boyfriend at the time. And secondly, you can't think of another question to ask her. You have a court document that was just published the day before listing out a litany of prejudice, horrible texts from the investigators of this case. And that's what you're asking her? Come on, Today's Show. Do better.
How do you go through life knowing that there are lots of people who, despite what the jury said, still think you did it and you got away with it?
I've not had any evidence that there's lots of people who feel
There's
that
not.
way. I mean, I have lived more low key in the last year. I've just struggled to not have the adrenaline that I had during trial. But I have no interactions, no matter where I go. The grocery store, a restaurant, Newbury Street in Boston, any hotel or restaurant I eat at. I don't pay for meals. I get discounts everywhere. My parents get help taking groceries. I don't have interactions. I have not seen lots of people. I haven't seen one. The support isn't relegated to what you saw at the courthouse. It's throughout Massachusetts, and it happens
So you've
when
never
I
heard
travel.
from one person who...
Not one. Well, there were.
Have you
people-
been on the internet?
Really? Have you been on the
looked at
internet?
any of the
Yeah, oh
comments?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen tweets. I have not interacted with anyone. And yes, there were people. There were pink shirts, and there was maybe for every 50 pink shirts, there was someone in a blue shirt who had many of them ties to people on the other side of this case.
John, let's talk about John for a second, Karen, because you dated for 2 years. You got so close with his family, his nieces, his nephews. You went on vacation together, right? This is somebody that you loved. And yet, I think for a lot of people, somehow he gets lost sometimes in this conversation.
Well, because you.
He's not lost. He's the reason we're doing this.
I think I think people sometimes wonder, are you doing this for John, or are we trying to go after institutional corruption? Are we trying to get you money damages? What is the goal?
John was the victim of this institutional corruption, and we're the voice for John. And I have lived nearly daily John's final moments, and what happened to him, what was on his phone, what was the temperature of his phone, what was his interactions that I had experienced prior to his death with members of the family that lived in that house. And this all revolves around John. I can speak about my personal memories with John, and his family can speak to them as well. But I implore any one of John's family or friends to point to any moment that I wasn't loving or caring with John and his adopted niece and nephew. And
what was he like?
John was very easygoing and kind of shy, quiet. And he just liked to watch Boston sports and drink a few beers. And he was funny. He had a really good sense of humor. And he was very dutiful to his niece and nephew. I mean, he did everything. They were involved in anything they wanted to be involved in. And he tried incredibly hard with them and gave up his bachelorhood, changed his trajectory on the Boston Police Department to care for them. So he was incredibly sacrificial.
We know you're fighting the civil suit that's been filed by his family, but if you could talk to his family today, what would you say to him?
I don't have anything to say to his family. I interacted with them for several years. John and I had actually dated a long time ago when we were in our early 20s, and I was caring and I believe generous with them, with my time, and we did spend a lot of time together. And they experienced who I am, and they know who I am.
Beyond the civil suit, what comes next for Karen Read? What are you going to do for the rest of your life?
I don't think we're done discussing law enforcement, corruption, what's wrong with Massachusetts, where else is it?
So let's say you win the civil suit, then what comes next for you personally?
Personally, I'd like to keep talking about what I've experienced. I haven't really been free enough, especially with all these lawsuits, to say all that I've experienced. And I think it would be a waste for me to just disappear and go live on an island, although I would like to do that.
Well, we hope that you will come back. We have a lot more that we want to discuss with you as this case continues. Karen, Alan, Charles, thank you.
All right. So, a couple thoughts on that. As I said, the day before, there was a huge document was released which documented all of the texting and the framework of the investigators that had a lot of bias towards women, towards anybody that wasn't a male white person. And it's bad. Like, if you don't read it, it's not good. I mean, some of the commentators that usually report on all this stuff had a hard time reporting on this. That's how bad it is. And these are the people that were investigating and basically making decisions on this case. So my whole theory, since day one, since I started with all criminology, is that the gatekeepers to the criminal justice system are the police. The gatekeepers to the criminal justice system are the police. They are the ones that have people enter into the system. They have that discretion. If you are dealing with people that are not ethically and morally of sound mind, then we have a problem. And that's what we have here in Massachusetts. So what she's trying to do in her civil case is trying to eradicate that and trying to make it right. And these are the questions that she gets. Do better, Today Show. If you can't come up, first of all, if you can't do your research, don't do the interview. If you can't come up with better questions, don't do the interview. Do better, Today Show. That is why mainstream media is a thing of the past. I don't watch it. The only reason I caught this is because I can't read on it. But I vet every person I get my news from. I know they're legit. And the Today Show, I don't know how they're still on. They shouldn't even have they shouldn't have a following anymore. This is disgusting to me, to think that these two people would come on here unprepared and have these questions that make them look like idiots, in my opinion. Do better, Today Show, or don't do it at all. That is our weekly commentary on Do Better. Stay tuned for next week. All right, y'all, thanks for joining me. And we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming of the Empty Nesters after this segment. Take care.